All right, so today we're going to jump into something that's pretty cool, and I think it's going to have a huge impact on how we use AI going forward.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one, for sure.
We're talking custom GPTs.
Yeah.
Now, you know how you've got like, standard AI that can kind of chat about like a million different things.
Right.
It's like, okay, tell me about the history of cheese, or, write me a poem about, I don't know, a dancing giraffe.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you could take all that brain power and you could just like intensely focus it on one specific thing, like just zero in on one particular area?
Yeah, it's like, I always think of it kind of like having like a super smart buddy.
Okay.
And their absolute passion day in and day out is like baking cookies.
Okay, like they're obsessed with cooking.
Obsessed with cookies. Yeah,
Okay.
so instead of being like a jack of all trades with AI, you're essentially creating like a highly skilled specialist.
So you're saying it's like instead of them knowing a little bit about everything,
Yeah.
they know a ton about this one very specific thing.
Exactly. And you can like, feed it all the details about, different flours, the precise oven temperatures for, chewy versus crispy edges, the science behind it all.
So basically you're turning this AI into like a cookie connoisseur.
Yeah, like a true expert.
So it can give you like genuinely knowledgeable responses about cookies.
Exactly. It's not just surface level stuff. It can actually go deep.
I see. So it's all about like getting an AI that's truly exceptional at like one particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
And the hope is then that the information you get back is going to be more relevant, it's going to be more insightful, and ultimately it's going to be like way more valuable to you because it's so focused.
Right. Because it's not trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
It's like, this is my lane and I'm going to dominate it.
Exactly. So if you're thinking right now, okay, I want to build one of these custom GPTs.
Yeah,
There's one key thing you got to know. You need a premium ChatGPT subscription
that's right.
from OpenAI. But once you got that, you're good to go.
You're ready to roll.
So you're going to head over to the ChatGPT website. You'll see the familiar chat window, but this time take a look at the left-hand sidebar.
Okay.
And you'll spot an option there that says Explore GPTs. Click on that.
Explore GPTs.
And this Explore GPTs page is like stepping into a library, but it's not a library full of books. It's a library full of like specialized AI minds.
Whoa.
It's a collection of all these custom GPTs that others have built. And yes, you can even choose to put your own creations out there.
Oh, cool.
So it really gives you a sense of like the focused intelligence these things can have.
Right.
And there's some examples on this page that might like spark your own ideas.
Okay, so what kind of things are we talking about here?
So there's one called Consensus.
Consensus. So.
And this GPT is specifically trained using a massive amount of academic research, like peer-reviewed papers.
So it's like, if you need information that's grounded in like really solid research,
Yeah, you go to Consensus.
you go to consensus. That's fascinating.
Then there's Code Copilot, and as the name suggests,
I'm guessing it helped you write code.
yeah, it's trained on this massive data set of code from platforms like GitHub.
So if you're a programmer, this is like your new best friend.
Absolutely. And then there's Data Analyst.
Okay.
And this one's unique because it lets you upload your own data.
Oh, wow.
And then the GPT uses that specific information to analyze it and base its responses like directly on what you provided.
So it's like having a personalized data analyst at your fingertips.
Exactly. So across all these examples, the core idea is that by concentrating on like a specific task or a specific body of knowledge, these custom GPTs aim to give you like way more precise and on-point results.
I'm starting to see the appeal here. This is powerful stuff.
So you've browsed these existing GPTs and you're feeling inspired.
I am definitely feeling inspired.
You're ready to create your own. So in the top right corner of the Explore GPTs page, you'll see a button that says Create.
Okay, create. Got it.
Clicking that is your doorway into custom GPT building.
All right, let's open that door.
This opens up an interface, and there's two main ways that you can actually craft your AI assistant.
Two paths to choose from.
You've got the Create option, which is this really intuitive conversational way to build your GPT. It's almost like you're just chatting with another AI to design your AI.
Okay, so like a conversation-based approach.
Exactly. And then you have the Configure tab where you can get a little more hands-on and directly input all the different settings and fields to really shape your assistant.
So you can get under the hood and fine-tune things.
Exactly. And the cool thing is you don't have to stick to just one first. You can switch between them.
Oh, that's handy.
Maybe you start with a conversation to get like the basics down, and then you fine-tune the details manually or vice versa.
So it's flexible. You can kind of go back and forth.
Exactly.
Well, let's start with that conversational approach.
Okay.
So you hit create, and the GPT builder will greet you with a simple prompt. Something like, "Hi, I'll help you build a new GPT. What would you like to make?" It even gives you a few examples just to get you thinking.
Right, like to prime the pump.
Exactly. And right there at the bottom, you'll see a text field where you can start describing what you have in mind.
So to make this really clear, let's walk through like a practical example.
Okay, love a good example.
Let's say you type in, I would like to make a new GPT that helps people with baking cookies.
Very specific. I like it.
You send that off, and the GPT builder will probably respond with a suggestion, maybe something like, great, how about we call this GPT Cookie Helper?
Cookie helper, I love it.
And it'll ask if that sounds good to you or if you had another name in mind.
Okay, so it's checking in with you.
So you respond, you say, yeah, Cookie Helper sounds perfect.
And then what happens?
Then quite often the GPT builder will go ahead and it'll generate a basic profile picture for your creation.
Oh, cool, like a little visual representation.
Yeah, so in our cookie example, you might see initially like a fairly generic image, like a cozy kitchen scene with some freshly baked cookies.
Okay, a good starting point.
But maybe you had like a more distinctive image in mind.
Right, like something with a bit more personality?
Yeah, perhaps you were thinking of like a character, a kind of mascot that people could easily remember.
I see like a friendly face for your cookie GPT.
Exactly. So in our example, the idea of like a Cookie Monster-esque mascot pops up.
Oh, I love it.
Something playful, something friendly that clearly knows its way around cookies.
Of course, being mindful of any copyright issues with Sesame Street.
Of course.
But yeah, I get the idea.
So you can describe your idea to the GPT builder. You say something like, can you create a profile picture inspired by the Cookie Monster? Make it a fun, furry character that looks like it knows a lot about baking cookies.
And I bet the AI can actually generate an image based on that description.
It can. So it might come back with this like charming furry friend who definitely looks like they've spent some quality time with flour and sugar.
Okay, so our cookie helper is starting to take shape.
And over on the right side of the interface, you get this live preview of your custom GPT like coming together visually. You see the profile picture, you see the name Cookie Helper. It's all starting to happen.
This is exciting. I feel like we're actually building something here.
And the GPT builder will then ask you more questions.
Okay, like what?
Things like, what specific tasks should it be able to help with? Or are there any topics you'd prefer it to avoid?
So it's trying to gather the necessary details to make this custom AI actually effective.
Exactly. And you can answer these questions one by one, or you can provide like a more comprehensive set of instructions that covers various aspects of what you want your GPT to do and how you want it to behave.
Right, because it's not just about the tasks, it's also about the personality, the style.
So think about the tone you want it to adopt. Should it be lighthearted, serious, or somewhere in between? What kind of background or persona should it have? In our cookie example, maybe we want it to be fun, warm, energetic, humorous, and consistently helpful.
Yeah, like the ultimate cookie baking companion.
And perhaps it even represents like a beloved cookie company.
Oh, I like that.
You can also specify things like the language it should use, like keeping it simple and easy for anyone to understand in our cookie scenario.
All right, so anyone can follow along.
And the main focus of its abilities, which is providing cookie recipes and offering guidance on baking cookies.
Okay, so we're really honing in on its expertise.
It's also crucial to consider what you don't want it to do.
Oh, that's a good point.
For example, if users try to change the subject to something completely unrelated.
Right, like if they start asking about the weather or something.
Exactly. Maybe you want it to politely steer the conversation back to baking and ask for clarification if needed.
So it stays on track and focused on its mission.
So you feed all these detailed instructions to the GPT builder, and behind the scenes, it's processing all that information and configuring your custom GPT.
It's like it's baking up our cookie helper.
And it would then announce that the cookie helper is ready for a test drive in the preview window.
Time to see it in action.
And it's worth repeating, this initial setup isn't final. You can always revisit it, provide more instructions, refine its behavior as you go.
So it's an iterative process. You can keep tweaking and improving it.
Absolutely. And for a more in-depth look at how it's all put together, you can click on the Configure tab at the top.
Okay.
This is where you can really get into the nuts and bolts of your GPT, and you'll notice that a lot of the information you see here mirrors what you discussed in the Create tab, like the name, the short description, the initial instructions you gave, the profile picture, because those two interfaces are designed to work together seamlessly in building your AI.
So they're like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
And in the Configure tab, you have direct control over the profile picture.
Yes, you can upload your own image if you have one ready, or you can tap into DALL-E.
DALL-E, OpenAI's image generation tool.
Right, to create a brand new one on the spot, just like we did initially for our our friendly cookie mascot. You'll also see the name of your GPT, which you can edit directly in this section.
So you can always tweak the visuals and the name.
Yeah, and then the instructions section. This is where like the core programming of your GPT resides.
And the brains of the operation.
As you were having that conversation with the GPT builder, it was essentially translating your requests into these instructions that dictate how your custom GPT behaves.
So it's like the rule book for the AI.
But the great thing is you can also come in here and directly edit these instructions.
Oh, wow.
For even more precise control over how your GPT responds, the kind of language it employs, and even how it formats its answers.
So you can really get granular with the customization.
It's like having the AI's operational manual right in front of you.
That's powerful.
Another really useful part of the Configure tab is the Conversation Starters section.
Conversation starters.
These are like suggested prompts that users will see when they first interact with your GPT, giving them like immediate ideas of what it's capable of doing.
Yeah.
You have the flexibility to customize these, remove the default ones, or add your own to encourage specific types of interactions.
So you're setting the stage for how people engage with your GPT.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's put our cookie helper to the test.
Okay, game on.
In the preview window on the right, we can try out some prompts. Let's start simple and ask for a classic chocolate chip cookie recipe.
Okay, so you type that in and hit send.
Fingers crossed.
And hopefully our custom GPT will come back with a delicious list of ingredients and clear instructions.
Moment of truth.
And this is the moment where you see if your initial instructions are paying off.
Right. Did we do a good job training our AI?
So in our example, the cookie helper diligently provides a full chocolate chip cookie recipe.
Success.
Now remember, we also instructed it to avoid getting sidetracked by unrelated topics.
Right, like the weather.
Let's see how it handles that if we ask, what's the weather like in Seattle today? A well-programmed cookie helper should ideally gently guide the conversation back to its area of expertise, maybe even with a bit of humor.
So it politely declines to answer and steers us back to cookies.
Exactly. It might respond with something like, while I appreciate your interest in the Seattle climate, my oven is set to focus solely on cookies today. What delicious creation are you thinking of baking?
It acknowledges the off-topic question, but smoothly redirects back to baking.
That shows it's adhering to our guidelines.
We trained it well.
Now, what happens if we ask about something it shouldn't know? Let's say we inquire, how do I bake Clippy's scrumptious cookies?
Lippy's scrumptious cookies sounds delicious, but I have no idea what that is.
This is a completely made-up cookie
Oh, okay.
we haven't provided any information about yet.
So it's like a test of its knowledge limits.
In this scenario, the GPT relying on its general training data would most likely respond that it hasn't encountered that specific recipe before.
Right, because we haven't taught it that yet.
It might express curiosity, but admit its lack of knowledge.
Okay, so how do we fix that?
This is where the true power of custom GPTs emerges.
All right, I'm intrigued.
Over in the Configure tab, you'll find a knowledge section where you can upload files.
Files, so we can give it more information.
This is like giving your custom GPT its very own personal library of specialized information.
Like its own little cookie cookbook.
So if we upload a recipe file for our imaginary Clippy's scrumptious cookies into the knowledge section,
Okay.
the GPT can then access and utilize that information when formulating its responses.
So now it'll know about these mysterious scrumptious cookies.
And once that recipe is uploaded, if we ask again, how do I bake Clippy's scrumptious cookies?
It'll know what to do.
It will now be able to provide detailed instructions and a list of ingredients, all thanks to the specific knowledge we've given it.
So it's learning and expanding its expertise.
This unlocks so many possibilities. Just imagine students uploading their course notes or even entire textbooks to create class-specific GPTs that they can ask questions about.
It's like having a personalized study buddy.
Now, let's say we're not entirely satisfied with how the initial recipe for Clippy's scrumptious cookies was presented. Maybe the ingredients were listed after the baking steps and we'd prefer them to come first.
Okay, so a little formatting issue.
This is where we head back to the Configure tab and fine-tune those instructions.
Back under the hood.
We can go into the instructions section and add a specific formatting rule.
Okay.
For example, we could add, please format all cookie recipes by first listing the ingredients followed by the step-by-step baking instructions.
So we're telling it exactly how we want the information presented.
Once we save these updated instructions and ask for the Clippy's scrumptious cookies recipe again, we should see it presented in our preferred format with the ingredients clearly listed before the baking steps.
Much better.
This really emphasizes the iterative nature of building a custom GPT. You create a bit, You preview the results, you make adjustments, and you repeat until you're happy with the outcome.
It's a process of refinement.
Moving further down the Configure tab, let's explore the Capabilities section.
Okay, capabilities. What can our cookie helper do?
Here you'll find a few really important settings that you can toggle on or off. The first one is web browsing.
Web browsing so it can access the internet.
If you turn this on your custom, GPT gains the ability to access and search for information on the internet to answer questions. If you leave it off, its knowledge is limited to its internal training data and any files you've specifically uploaded in the knowledge section.
So you can control its access to information.
For our cookie GPT, we might choose to turn this off
Okay.
if we only want it to rely on the recipes we've provided.
So it's like a closed system, just our curated cookie knowledge.
Exactly.
Next up, DALL-E image generation.
As the name suggests, this allows your GPT to generate images. We saw this in action earlier when our furry cookie mascot was created.
Right.
Even though it's already toggled on by default, we can now actively incorporate it into our instructions.
Oh, cool. So we can tell it to use its image generation powers.
Let's go back to the instructions and add a request that whenever it provides a cookie recipe, it should also generate an image of the finished cookies.
So we'll get a visual along with the recipe.
So we update the instructions to include this new request. And then when we ask for the Clippy Scrumptious Cookies recipe one more time, we should now receive not only the detailed ingredients and baking steps, but also a freshly generated image of what those cookies might look like.
Wow. So it's like our cookie helper is also a bit of a cookie artist.
It might not be a professional food photograph, but it gives you a visual idea to go along with the recipe.
I like it. It adds another dimension to the experience.
The last capability listed here is Code Interpreter. This is a very powerful tool that enables the GPT to run computer code, perform mathematical calculations, and analyze data.
That sounds super advanced.
While incredibly useful for a wide range of applications, it's probably not essential for our specific cookie-focused GPT, so we can leave that turned off for now.
Makes sense. We're keeping it cookie-centric.
Now, this next section labeled Actions.
Actions. Okay.
This is where things can get really interesting and potentially unlock a whole new level of functionality for your custom GPT.
Well, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Actions allow your AI assistant to connect and interact with external services and their APIs using simple conversational prompts.
APIs, application programming interfaces.
Right. Think of it as giving your AI the ability to have conversations with other applications and pull in live data or perform specific tasks on your behalf.
So it can tap into the power of other services and tools.
Exactly. There are countless APIs out there that provide access to all sorts of real-time information and functionalities, everything from current weather updates and up-to-the-minute stock prices to live sports scores and even internal data systems within a company.
Wow. So it's like expanding the AI's reach beyond just its own knowledge base.
Actions essentially provide a user-friendly conversational layer on top of these more technical APIs,
So you don't need to be a programmer to utilize them.
making that data and those functionalities accessible through simple requests within your custom GPT.
That's really powerful. It opens up a lot of possibility.
To add an action, you'll click the Create New Action button.
Okay, create new action.
You'll then be presented with different options for authentication, such as none, if no authentication is needed. API key, where you can enter a specific key to access the API, or oath for more secure authentication methods. It's worth noting that there are actually thousands of free APIs available that you could potentially integrate into your custom GPT to extend its capabilities.
So you're not limited to just a handful of options. There's a whole world of APIs out there.
Once you've configured the authentication, you'll need to provide what's called an OpenAPI schema.
Open API schema.
Okay. This is essentially a technical document that describes how the API works, what kind of data it can provide, and how your GPT can interact with it. You can usually find this documentation provided by the developer of the API you want to use.
So it's like the instruction manual for
Right.
the API.
To illustrate how this works, let's imagine we want our cookie helper to be able to tell us where to find local cookie stores.
Oh, that's a great idea.
We could add an API schema for a fictional Kevin Cookie Company that allows users to search for their store locations within a specified area.
Kevin Cookie Company. I love it.
We'd provide the schema, which would outline the specific web address for finding stores and the necessary information our GPT needs to provide, like the desired location.
Okay, so we're connecting our cookie helper to this external cookie store database.
Then over in the preview window, we could actually test this out by asking something like, show me all Kevin Cookie Company stores in Seattle, Washington.
And the GPT would know what to do.
The GPT would then use the API schema we provided to understand our request query, the Kevin Cookie Company API with the location Seattle, Washington, and then present the results, a list of Kevin Cookie Company stores in Seattle, in a clear and easy to understand format.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like having a personal cookie concierge.
Who can not only guide you through baking the perfect cookie, but also direct you to the nearest place to buy them.
I'm sold on this actions feature.
Back on the main configure page, right at the bottom, you'll find an additional settings section. Currently, there's just one setting here. Use conversation data in your GPT to improve our models.
Okay, so this is about data sharing.
This gives you the choice of whether or not to allow the conversations that people have with your custom GPT to be used by OpenAI to help them further improve their underlying AI models. You can toggle this setting on or off based on your preferences regarding data sharing.
So it's up to the user to decide if they want to contribute to the overall improvement of the AI.
Finally, once you're completely satisfied with how your custom GPT is set up and behaving,
We're ready to unleash it upon the world.
the last step is to publish it in the top right corner. You click that Create button again. This time, it will bring up different options for who you want to share your creation with. You can choose Only Me if you want it to be private for your own use, anyone with the link, though they will still need a ChatGPT Plus subscription to use it, or you can even opt to publish it to the broader GPT store, making it accessible to all ChatGPT users.
So you have control over its visibility.
For our cookie helper example, let's say we choose Only Me for now
Okay.
and click Share, and just like that, our custom GPT is officially published.
Congratulations, our cookie helper is born.
You can then access all the custom GPTs you've created in the left-hand sidebar under the My GPTs section. After you click on Explore GPTs, you'll see your cookie helper listed there, and you'll have the options to delete it or edit its settings if you decide you want to make further tweaks down the line.
So it's not set in stone. You can always go back and make changes.
And that really covers the entire process from having an initial idea to creating a fully functional custom GPT.
It's surprisingly straightforward.
Think about the wider implications beyond just baking cookies. Students can create personalized AI tutors based on their specific textbooks and learning materials. Businesses can automate tasks like efficiently extracting key data from invoices, and individuals can develop specialized assistants to save significant time and effort on countless repetitive tasks.
The possibilities are endless.
The real power of custom GPTs lies in their ability to execute very specific tasks effectively without you needing to provide detailed prompts every single time you've essentially trained the AI to be an expert in that very focused area.
It's like having a dedicated AI assistant for whatever you need.
So in this deep dive, we've taken a general-purpose language model and step-by-step transformed it into a highly specialized cookie helper, complete with its own personality-specific knowledge about cookie recipes, the ability to generate relevant images, and even access to external real-time information through an API.
It's remarkable what we've accomplished here.
This really underscores how accessible tailored AI has become with the ChatGPT Plus subscription. The ability to craft AI assistants for very specific needs and workflows is now within reach for a wide range of users.
It's democratizing AI in a sense.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to consider.
Okay, I'm ready.
Reflecting on how we've taken a general AI and molded it into this focused cookie helper, what other specific areas in your own life or work could potentially benefit from having a custom AI assistant designed just for you?
That's a great question.
What routine tasks could you automate, or what specific knowledge gaps could you bridge by creating your very own GPT?
It's a new frontier of personalized AI.
We really encourage you to explore these possibilities and think about the potential time savings and significant efficiency gains that custom GPTs can offer.
It's an exciting time to be exploring the world of AI.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy baking.
And happy GPT creating.